Welcome back to SuperBike Intelligence. Honestly, it feels good having you here again. Like that familiar nod you give another rider at a petrol station when you both know you didn't buy your bikes for practical reasons. Today, we're talking about a machine that refuses to behave, refuses to age gracefully, and refuses to let the industry forget it ever existed, the Suzuki Hayabusa. And before we even get into this properly, if you're enjoying these conversations, if you like bikes discussed with a bit of honesty and emotion instead of spreadsheets, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to the channel. No pressure, just you'll want to be around for this one. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no manufacturer likes admitting out loud. The Hayabusa still scares them. Not because it's the newest, not because it's the fastest on paper anymore, but because it represents something the industry has been quietly trying to move away from and failing to fully replace. You don't casually talk about a Hayabusa, you react to it. People either lean in with a grin or immediately start listing reasons why they'd never own one. And that right there tells you everything. Bikes that don't matter don't provoke emotions. Appliances don't start arguments. Legends do. Think back to the first time you really noticed a Hayabusa. Not read about it, noticed it. Maybe it was parked slightly crooked outside a takeaway at midnight. Maybe it rolled past you on the motorway, barely stretching its legs, looking absurdly calm at speeds your brain hadn't caught up with yet. Or maybe it was just sitting in someone's garage, massive and unapologetic, like it knew exactly what it was capable of and didn't need to explain itself. The Hayabusa didn't arrive asking permission. It didn't try to fit neatly into a category. It showed up, bent the rules, and then dared everyone else to respond. And the industry did respond. Speed agreements, gentlemen's packs, electronic leashes, marketing pivots. But no matter how many times manufacturers tried to move the goalposts, the Hayabusa remained the reference point. The thing they were quietly measuring themselves against. That's why it still scares them. Because fear isn't always about what's new. Sometimes it's about what refuses to disappear. Modern bikes love to talk. They talk about modes, algorithms, dashboards that look like fighter jets. The Hayabusa doesn't say much. It doesn't need to. It just exists with this calm menace like a heavyweight boxer leaning against the ropes, letting the room buzz while it waits. And riders feel that. There's a certain type of person drawn to a Hayabusa. Not the loudest in the group ride. Not always the fastest either. Often the quiet one who doesn't need to prove anything because the bike already says enough. The kind of rider who understands restraint. Not because the machine lacks power, but because it has so much of it that respect becomes part of the relationship. That's a dynamic many modern bikes struggle to replicate. They're eager, they're sharp, they're constantly egging you on. The Hayabusa is different. It feels like it's asking one simple question every time you thumb the starter. Are you sure? Cold start, early morning, garage door half open. That deep, unmistakable presence filling the space. It's not screaming for attention, it's letting you know it's awake. And in that moment, before you even roll out, you already feel it. This isn't a bike you ride casually. This is a bike you enter into an agreement with. And that's why it still divides people. Critics will tell you it's too big, too heavy, too much. That it doesn't make sense in a world of lightweight, hyper-focused machines. And on the surface, they're right, if you look at it like a spec sheet. But riders don't bond with spreadsheets. They bond with moments. That stretch of empty road late at night. The way traffic seems to part when you roll through. The stability at speeds where other bikes feel like they're negotiating with physics. The sense that the bike isn't working hard. You are. That calm, terrifying surplus of capability. Manufacturers are scared of that because it's honest. You can't hide behind software when a machine is built like this. You can't mask character with updates. The Hayabusa's reputation wasn't crafted in a boardroom. It was forged in real-world stories. In whispered, don't mess with that thing conversations. In riders quietly selling bikes they should have loved, only to come back to the Busa because something else felt missing. And let's talk about identity for a second. Owning a Hayabusa isn't about chasing trends. It's not about being the first to post a launch photo. It's about aligning yourself with a philosophy that says motorcycles don't need to apologize for being excessive. That sometimes the point is the excess. In a world where everything is being optimized, shrunk, softened, and explained away, the Hayabusa stands there like a reminder of a different era. Not a reckless one, but a bold one. A time when engineers weren't asking, will this upset anyone? But instead asking, what happens if we don't hold back? That mindset scares manufacturers because it doesn't scale neatly. You can't build a brand strategy around that without taking risks. And most brands today don't want risk. They want predictability. But riders still crave that edge. You see it in the way people defend the Hayabusa. Not aggressively, passionately. Like they're defending a friend who gets misunderstood. They'll admit the flaws. They'll joke about the size. They'll even accept the stereotypes. But there's always this quiet confidence underneath because they know something others don't until they've lived with one. And if you've ever followed a Hayabusa on a long ride, you know exactly what I mean. It doesn't dance. It dominates. It eats distance without drama. It turns the motorway into something personal. It makes other fast bikes feel busy. And here's the part that really unsettles manufacturers. Despite decades of progress, nobody has truly replaced it emotionally. Plenty have challenged it technically. Some have surpassed it in specific metrics. But none have erased its shadow. That's not normal. Most bikes get outdated. They get fondly remembered, then politely shelved in history. The Hayabusa refuses to stay there. It keeps coming back into conversations, into garages, into late-night debates at petrol stations. And if you're nodding along right now, or shaking your head, drop a like or leave a comment while you're thinking about it. Seriously, I love seeing where people land on this, because opinions on the Hayabusa are never boring. There's also something deeply human about the way the Hayabusa ages. It doesn't chase youth. It doesn't pretend to be something else every generation. It evolves, sure, but it never disowns its past. That continuity matters to riders who've been around long enough to see bikes reinvent themselves into oblivion. And maybe that's why manufacturers are uneasy. Because the Hayabusa proves that legacy, when handled honestly, can be more powerful than novelty. It's easy to build something fast. It's much harder to build something iconic. Something that becomes shorthand for an entire idea. Say, Hayabusa, and people don't think lap times. They think power, presence, confidence, a certain kind of rider. And yes, that rider isn't everyone. But that's the point. The Hayabusa doesn't chase universal approval. It never did. It accepts that some people will never get it, and that acceptance gives it strength. In a strange way, its refusal to compromise is what keeps it relevant. Picture this. Group ride mixed bikes. Everyone comparing gadgets, screens, ride modes. Then someone mentions the Hayabusa. Suddenly the tone shifts. Stories come out. Someone knows a guy, someone rode one once, and still talks about it years later. Someone admits they're scared of it. Not in a bad way, but in a respectful one. Fear and respect live close together in motorcycling. The Hayabusa sits right at that intersection. Manufacturers spend millions trying to engineer excitement. The Hayabusa generates it by existing. By reminding everyone that motorcycles don't need to justify themselves with complexity. Sometimes raw intent is enough. And that's the quiet threat it poses to the industry. Not that it's unbeatable, but that it exposes a truth they'd rather not confront. That riders don't always want safer, smarter, cleaner experiences. Sometimes they want something that feels a little dangerous, a little excessive, a little unapologetic. That doesn't mean irresponsible, it means alive. And if you've ever shut the garage door after a ride on a Hayabusa, stood there for a second, helmet still in your hand, heart slightly ahead of your thoughts, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That pause, that smile you didn't plan, that sense that the bike gave you more than you asked for. That's not something you engineer away. So yeah, the Hayabusa still scares manufacturers. Not because it breaks rules anymore, but because it reminds riders that rules were never the point to begin with. And that's where I'll leave it. If you've owned one, ridden one, hated one, or secretly want one, I want to hear it. Subscribe to SuperBike Intelligence if you enjoy conversations like this. Share your take in the comments. argue with me, agree with me. Tell me why I'm wrong or why I'm right. That's what this channel is for. Because at the end of the day, the Hayabusa isn't just a motorcycle, it's a question. And how you answer it says a lot about the kind of rider you are.